When the millionaire encountered his new housemaid for the first time, he was initially focused on welcoming her into his home. However, his attention was abruptly diverted when he noticed the stunning necklace she wore, leaving him completely astonished. The millionaire froze in shock the moment he spotted the necklace that Clara was wearing. This surprising encounter with his new housemaid would soon trigger a series of events, revealing hidden truths and changing lives forever. Clara, a young black woman, had just left the orphanage where she spent the first 18 years of her life. Now she was stepping into a world full of both opportunity and uncertainty. Unaware of what was about to unfold, she walked away from the orphanage, her bag slung over her shoulder. She paused to take a final glance at the large red brick building that had been her home for so long. It held memories of both happiness and pain, along with strength and friendship. With a deep breath, she turned to face the future, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation for what awaited her. On a bright sunny day, she was ready to start a new chapter in her life. With the help of the orphanage director, she'd landed a job as a housekeeper at the mansion of William Prescott, a famous real estate tycoon. This opportunity felt like a far-off dream, but now it was becoming real. When Clara arrived at the grand mansion, she was met by Henry, the butler who had served the Prescott family for more than 30 years. His stern look and stiff posture made Clara feel uneasy, but she held her head high, determined to show that she could do the job. Henry led her through the mansion in a formal and distant manner, his words heavy with suspicion. "I hope you realize the responsibility that comes with this job," Henry said as they walked through the beautifully decorated halls. "The Prescott family expects the best and doesn't forgive mistakes." Now Clara nodded, doing her best to hide her anxiety. "I understand, Mr. Henry. I'll give it my all." Now the first few days was tough. Henry was quick to point out every small mistake, never missing a chance to criticize her work. Now she felt the wave of his disapproval with every sharp glance, but she refused to be discouraged. Her determination was stronger than his harsh words. Every day, Clara woke up before dawn, tackling her tasks with impressive dedication. Now she cleaned the rooms, maintained the common areas, and made sure that the kitchen sparkled. Even with Henry's constant criticism, Clara focused on learning and improving, paying close attention to every detail needed to keep the mansion in perfect condition. One tough morning, Clara was carefully cleaning the chandeliers in the living room when Henry walked in. "You left a stain on the dining table last night," he scolded, his tone sharp. "That's unacceptable." Now Clara felt the sting in his words. "I'm sorry, Mr. Henry. I'll be more careful next time." Henry sighed, still not convinced. "We'll see. This job requires nothing less than perfection." Now, even with the challenges, Clara found some small moments of peace in her work. The mansion's garden in particular became her sanctuary, a place where she could relax and gather her thoughts. During her breaks, she would sit quietly among the flowers, listening to the birds sing. Now, these brief moments in the garden helped her regain her strength and reminded her why she was there, to create a better future for herself. Now, that night, after a long day's work, she collapsed onto the small bed in her room at the mansion, feeling exhausted but proud of her progress. And though Henry remained critical and demanding, she knew that she was learning and improving each day. Now, determined to prove herself, she closed her eyes, ready to tackle whatever the next day would bring. Before the sun even touched the horizon, she was already awake, starting another day at the Prescott mansion. Her goal was clear: to show that she could perform her duties with excellence, despite Henry's constant criticisms. The kitchen, one of her favorite places to work, became her safe haven. And that morning, as she carefully cleaned the surfaces, her mind wandered to thoughts about her future. As she immersed herself in her work, she didn't hear the firm, determined footsteps approaching. William Prescott, the head of the family, had just returned from an exhausting business trip. Now, fatigue was etched on his face, but a deeper sorrow lingered in his eyes, the silent grief that he'd carried ever since his daughter went missing. He entered the kitchen, hoping to get a glass of water, but what he saw left him frozen in place. Clara was facing away, concentrating on her task, but the heart-shaped necklace hanging around her neck immediately caught William's eye. Now, it was unmistakable, identical to the one his daughter had worn on the day she vanished. "Excuse me," William managed to say, trying to keep his voice steady despite the lump forming in his throat. Clara quickly turned around, startled to see the master of the house standing there. "Good morning, Mr. Prescott," she said, trying to hide her nervousness. William stepped closer, his eyes locked on the necklace. "That necklace is very beautiful. Have you had it for a long time?" Clara instinctively touched the necklace, a habit that she had whenever she was nervous. "Yes, sir, for as long as I can remember I've had it. I grew up with it and it's always been a part of my life. It's the only link I have to my past." William felt a surge in mixed emotions. The necklace's resemblance to his lost daughters couldn't be just a coincidence. He knew he had to learn more about Clara, her past, and how she came to possess that necklace. "Interesting," William replied, masking the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in his mind. "I hope you settled in well here." "I'm doing my best, Mr. Prescott," Clara answered, feeling relieved to have a friendly exchange, a stark contrast to her usual interactions with Henry. William nodded and went to the refrigerator to get the water he'd originally come for, but his mind was racing. He knew he had to dig deeper into Clara's past and uncover the story behind that necklace. Later that day, William retreated to his office and made a call to an old friend who owned a well-known detective agency. He explained the situation briefly, asking for a thorough investigation into Clara's past. Now, something deep inside him suggested that this young woman might be connected to his past in ways that he never imagined. Meanwhile, Clara continued with her routine, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. The necklace that she wore, a link to her mysterious past, had now become the focal point of an investigation that could change her life forever. Now, William was determined to uncover the truth no matter what it took. Sitting in his leather chair, William held the phone in his hand, replaying the conversation with his detective friend, Jonathan. Though brief, the discussion had heavy implications. Now, Jonathan promised to begin the investigation immediately and follow every lead meticulously. William knew that when it came to finding out the truth about Clara, nothing could be overlooked. Meanwhile, Clara continued her daily tasks, completely unaware of the investigation now centered on her life. Now, she stuck to her routine with care, determined to prove herself despite Henry's constant criticism. That night, after his initial conversation with Jonathan, William realized that he couldn't wait any longer. He needed answers, and only a thorough investigation could provide them. Picking up the phone again, he called Jonathan to formalize the detective's hiring. "Jonathan, I want you and your team to do whatever it takes to uncover everything about Clara's past. Leave no stone unturned and use whatever resources you need. We need answers quickly," William said with determination. "Don't worry, William, we'll start right away. I'll keep you updated on any progress," Jonathan assured him, fully grasping the urgency and importance of the task. A few days later, Jonathan reached out to William to arrange a meeting. The urgency in Jonathan's voice made it clear that something important had been uncovered. Now, they met at a discreet cafe in the city center, far from prying eyes. "William, my team made significant progress," Jonathan began, getting straight to the point. "Clara was found in a park 17 years ago when she was about 2 years old. And she was taken to an orphanage shortly after and lived there until recently when she left." William listened intently, his heart pounding. "And the necklace? Is there any clue about who might have left her there?" Jonathan shook his head. "Not yet. We're going through all available records and talking to anybody who might remember something. What we do know is that someone left her in the park with that necklace, and it doesn't look like it was an accident." William took a deep breath, taking in the information. "So Clara's been living without knowing anything about her past or who her parents are." "Exactly," Jonathan confirmed. "The orphanage had no more details about her, just that she was found in the park with a necklace. Now we're working to find any witnesses or clues about who might have left her there." The thought of his lost daughter was more vivid than ever for William. Now, each detail in the investigation seemed to bring him closer to a truth that he both feared and hoped for. Now, he wondered how often he might have been close to discovering it without realizing. "Keep investigating, Jonathan. I need every possible answer. If Clara's my daughter, I can't let this chance slip away," William said, his voice full of determination. Jonathan nodded, recognizing the urgency and importance of the task. "We'll do our best, William. I'll update you on any progress." Back at the mansion, William struggled to stay calm, though his anxiety was clear. He watched Clara from a distance, imagining how her life might change dramatically soon. Every move she made, every gesture seemed to remind him of his lost daughter. And one afternoon, as Clara was cleaning the library, William entered unexpectedly. Now, Clara looked up surprised, but greeted him with a shy smile. "Can I help with something, Mr. Prescott?" she asked. William paused for a moment before answering. "So I just wanted to check how your work is going. Are you adjusting well?" "Yes, sir. I'm learning a lot and am grateful for the chance," Clara replied sincerely. Now, William noticed the necklace catching the light in the library and felt a tightness in his chest. "Keep up the good work, Clara. You're doing well," William said as he left. Clara felt an uneasy sense that something deeper was at play. The days dragged for William as he waited for updates on Clara. Each new piece of information from Jonathan seemed to bring him closer to a truth that he both hoped for and feared. When Jonathan finally called to set up an urgent meeting, William knew the moment of revelation was near. Jonathan arrived at the Prescott mansion holding a thick envelope. Now he was quickly taken to William's office where William was waiting anxiously. "William, we've gathered all the available information," Jonathan began. "There's no doubt that Clara was found in a park 17 years ago and then taken to an orphanage. All the records confirm this. The necklace she wears is the only link to her past." He handed the envelope to William. William opened the envelope with trembling hands and carefully reviewed the documents. Each detail matched what he knew about his daughter's disappearance, and he realized that he needed to speak with Clara right away. "Thank you, Jonathan. I need to talk to her now," William said, standing up from his chair. Clara was in the kitchen, finishing up with the utensils when Henry asked her to go to William's office. Feeling nervous, she made her way there, unsure of what to expect. When she entered the office, she saw William sitting behind his desk with a serious but kind expression. He motioned for her to sit in front of him. "Clara, I need to discuss something very important with you," William began, trying to keep his voice calm. "Have you ever wondered about your past, about who your parents might be?" Clara nodded, her eyes showing both curiosity and anxiety. "Yes, sir, I've always wanted to know, but all I have is this necklace." William took a deep breath before continuing. "This necklace belonged to my daughter who went missing 17 years ago. The details we have about you match the information about her disappearance. I believe there's a chance that you are my daughter." Clara stayed silent, trying to understand what she just heard. The idea was both exciting and frightening at the same time. "Are you saying that I might be your daughter?" she asked. "Yes, Clara, but we need to be certain. I'd like us to do a DNA test to confirm this. It'll give us a clear answer." Clara felt a mix of hope, fear, and disbelief. "Yes, sir, I'll take the test." William smiled, relieved by her willingness. "Great, I'll arrange everything. I want you to know that no matter what the results say, you are very important to us here." The next day, William and Clara went to a specialized lab for the DNA test. Now, the test itself was quick, but waiting for the results felt endless. During this time, William tried to keep things normal at the mansion, but the tension was obvious. As he waited, he watched Clara with a mix of hope and worry. Her features reminded him of his lost daughter, and he couldn't shake the feeling that fate had brought them back together. Clara felt torn inside. The chance to learn her true origins was both thrilling and frightening. She wondered how her life would change if William turned out to be her father, and how it would affect her life in the Prescott mansion. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. From a distance, Henry observed everything with suspicion. He knew that confirming Clara's paternity could drastically change the household dynamics and possibly threaten his own position. The following days was filled with anxiety for everyone. William and Clara tried to stick to their routines, but the wait for the DNA test results cast a shadow over them. Every phone call, every knock on the door made William's heart race. And finally, the day of revelation arrived. The laboratory called to say that the results were ready. William and Clara went together to get the envelope that held the answer to their burning question. Back at the mansion in William's office, they opened the envelope with shaking hands. The moment of truth had arrived, and they both knew that whatever was written on that paper, their lives would change forever. William and Clara sat across from each other at the desk, the envelope with the DNA test results resting between them. William's hands trembled as he held the envelope, and Clara could feel the tension in the room. "Let's open it together," William said, his voice shaking but determined. Clara nodded, trying to keep her anxiety in check. William carefully opened the envelope and pulled out the document. As he read the words, it felt like time stood still. "Clara," William said, his voice filled with emotion, "the result is positive. I am your father." For a moment, everything seemed to pause. Clara stared at William, struggling to understand the weight of the news. Tears began to stream down her face as she searched for the right words. "You are my daughter," William said again, his voice now trembling with feeling. He opened his arms, and Clara rushed to him, embracing him tightly. Both were in tears, overwhelmed by a mix of relief and joy. "I finally found my family," Clara whispered, feeling complete for the first time. William gently held Clara's face in his hands, his eyes filled with tears. "We have so much time to make up for, but I promise we'll do it together." The news quickly spread through the mansion. When William told his wife Elizabeth, she was stunned for a moment before breaking down in joyful tears. My daughter, Elizabeth said, rushing to hug Clara. "I can't believe we finally found her." Elizabeth's embrace was warm and comforting, filling a void that Clara had always felt. Now she had a mother who loved her deeply and welcomed her with open heart. That joy spread through the Prescott mansion. The staff, who had watched the changes with curiosity and unease, joined in the family celebration. Henry, the butler, observed from a distance, trying to hide his true feelings about the situation. Clara began to become more involved in the Prescott family life. William and Elizabeth included her in everything, from family dinners to discussions about the business. The adjustment was challenging for Clara, but the unconditional support from her new parents made it easier. William was determined to teach Clara everything he knew about the family business. He knew it would be a tough task, but he believed that Clara had the strength and drive to succeed. "I want you to know, Clara," William said during one of their talks, "that I'm here to support you every step of the way. You're part of this family, and together we'll build a bright future." Clara nodded, feeling both grateful and motivated. She understood that the road ahead would have its challenges, but she was eager to learn and grow. With William and Elizabeth by her side, she felt ready to face any difficulties. Meanwhile, Henry watched from the sidelines with increasing unease. He realized that Clara's presence would change many things in the Prescott family dynamics and could affect his own position in the house. His own discontent grew, and he couldn't help but feel a mix of envy and fear about what the future might bring. The weeks after the revelation were filled with strong emotions and new routines for Clara. She was slowly adjusting to life as a member of the Prescott family, getting involved in daily activities and learning about the family business. The mansion, which had once felt like just a workplace, was starting to become a real home for her. One evening, during a quiet dinner, William and Clara discussed their childhood. Now, Elizabeth had already gone to bed, leaving father and daughter alone to strengthen their connection. "Clara, there's something I've always wanted to know," William said, setting down his fork. "Do you remember anything about the day you were found? Any details that might help us understand what happened?" Clara frowned, trying to recall the faint and fragmented memories of her early childhood. "I was very young, but there's something I'd never forgotten," she said slowly. "I remember a man. He took me to the park. I can't see his face clearly, but I remember he seemed nervous. He told me to wait there and said someone would come to get me." William listened, feeling a deep sadness at the thought of his young daughter being left alone in the park. "Do you remember anything else about that man? Any details that might help us identify him?" Clara shook her head. "Not much, just that he was nervous and appeared to be in a hurry. I think he was wearing a hat, but everything else is very blurry." William took Clara's hand, his eyes filled with determination. "That's already a start. We'll find out who he is and what really happened. I'll contact Jonathan again and ask him to investigate more deeply." The next day, William reached out to Jonathan and explained the new details that Clara had provided. Jonathan, known for his careful work, promised to use all necessary resources to follow this new lead. "I will reopen the investigation with this description in mind, William. We'll review records, talk to witnesses, and search for anyone who might remember something about that day in the park," Jonathan said, writing down all the details that William had shared. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Clara experienced both relief and anxiety. She felt relief for finally sharing her memories and having William's support. At the same time, she felt anxious about what the investigations might uncover. Henry watched the developments with increasing worry, his thoughts clouded by uncertainties about his future in the house. Jonathan's investigation quickly started to show results. He interviewed former employees at the orphanage and people who lived near the park where Clara was found. Little by little, piece by piece, the information began to fit together, creating a clearer, though still incomplete picture. One afternoon, William got a call from Jonathan. "William, I have some news," Jonathan said. "I found a witness who remembers seeing a man leaving a girl in the park around that time. He didn't see many details, but he confirmed that the man was wearing a hat and seemed to be in a hurry." William felt a mix of hope and worry. "That's good, Jonathan. Keep investigating. We need to find out who he was and why he left my daughter there." Jonathan agreed and promised to keep following all leads. Meanwhile, William decided it was time to tell Clara about the new information. He called her to his office and they reviewed the latest findings together. "We're making progress, Clara," William said, holding her hand gently. "Every small detail helps us get closer to the truth. We will find out who did this and why. You deserve to know everything." Clara felt a sense of gratitude and determination. "Thank you, Dad. I believe we'll uncover the truth together." As the investigation went on, Clara and William prepared themselves for any news that might come. They were united in their search for the truth, and no matter what they found, they were ready to face it together, which only strengthened their bond. As the investigation progressed, things began to change in the Prescott mansion. Clara, now recognized as William's legitimate daughter, was becoming more involved in family life and business. Elizabeth welcomed her warmly, and Clara's presence brought new happiness to the home. However, not everybody was pleased. Henry, the longtime butler, started to show signs of unhappiness. His face, once calm, now showed constant tension. He watched Clara with a mix of distrust and resentment. As Clara took on more responsibilities in the family business, Henry's discomfort grew even more. One day, William noticed Henry's changed behavior. The butler had become more curt and impatient, especially with Clara. William decided it was time to have a serious talk with him. "Henry, can we talk?" William called for the butler to come to his office. Henry walked in, standing straight and formal. "Yes, Mr. Prescott, how can I assist you?" Now, William studied him for a moment before speaking. "I've noticed that you've been acting differently since Clara joined us. I want to know if something is troubling you." Henry hesitated, then his face grew more serious. "Mr. Prescott, I've worked for this family for 30 years, and my loyalty has always been strong, but since Clara's arrival, it feels like everything has changed." Now, William looked concerned. "Henry, Clara's my daughter. She's got every right to be here and to be involved in the family business. If there's something else bothering you, I need you to tell me honestly." Henry shook his head, avoiding William's gaze. "Nothing, sir. I'm just getting used to the changes." Now, William wasn't fully convinced, but decided not to push further at that moment. He felt that something more serious was going on. Henry had always been a trusted member of the household, but his recent behavior made William uneasy. Meanwhile, Jonathan continued his investigation with determination. He aimed to find any connection between the man who left Clara in the park and anybody else involved. William stayed in regular contact with Jonathan, anxiously waiting for any updates. The atmosphere in the Prescott mansion was tense. Henry, feeling his position threatened, started acting more erratically. He made small mistakes in his duties, made sarcastic remarks, and gave Clara suspicious glances. Clara noticed Henry's behavior but stayed focused on her responsibilities, determined not to let anything disrupt her new life. William felt a growing sense of urgency. He knew the truth about Clara's past was close, but he also needed to stay vigilant for any signs of betrayal within his own home. Henry's true nature was starting to show, and William was determined to protect his family no matter what. After several weeks of investigation, Jonathan called William urgently. "William, we need to meet. I found something crucial about the man who left Clara in the park." William's heart raced. "I'll be there right away." At Jonathan's office, the detective handed William a detailed dossier. "William, my investigation has uncovered something troubling. The man who left Clara in the park 17 years ago was actually Henry, the butler." William was shocked. "Henry? This is unbelievable. Do you have proof?" Jonathan nodded and handed William a set of documents and photos. "Witnesses have confirmed the man's identity, and records show suspicious links between Henry and the events surrounding your daughter's disappearance." Back at the mansion, William was filled with anger and betrayal. He summoned Henry to his office, holding the evidence with shaking hands. "Henry, we need to talk immediately," William said firmly. Henry entered the room, trying to stay calm, but William noticed the nervousness in his eyes. "Yes, Mr. Prescott, what is it?" William slammed the evidence onto the table between them. "Explain this to me, Henry. How could you do this to my family?" Henry glanced at the documents, his face turning pale. "Mr. Prescott, I can explain." "There's no excuse for what you did," William shouted, his anger boiling over. "You took my daughter and abandoned her in a park. Why did you do it?" Henry finally broke down, his composure collapsing. "I was desperate. When I learned you had a daughter, I feared losing my place here. I thought that without any heir, you would leave everything to me. I did something awful and I regret it every day." Now William stared at Henry, his face a mix of pain and anger. "You ruined our lives, Henry. I trusted you." "Forgive me, Mr. Prescott. I didn't mean to cause harm," Henry pleaded. With a surge of emotions from learning the whole truth, William decided to call his lawyer, Mr. Collins. They gathered all the evidence against Henry and went to the police station. Now, the recent revelations weighed heavily on him, but William knew it was time to seek justice. At the station, Chief Inspector Harris greeted them. He had a serious but fair demeanor, and Mr. Collins presented the documents and evidence that implicated Henry. "Inspector Harris, we have strong evidence showing that Henry, the butler of the Prescott family, was responsible for the abduction of Mr. Williams' daughter 17 years ago," Mr. Collins said and handed the dossier to the inspector. Inspector Harris reviewed the documents, looking at the photos, testimonies, and records. Now his face grew serious as he understood the gravity of the situation. "These are very serious accusations. We'll arrest him right away. Mr. Prescott will need to file a formal complaint." "I'm ready to do whatever's necessary," William said, his voice steady and determined. Now back at the mansion, everybody felt the tension. Henry was clearly nervous, sensing that something was about to happen. When the police arrived, he tried to stay calm, but his eyes showed his growing fear. "Mr. Henry, you are under arrest for the abduction of Mr. Prescott's daughter," Inspector Harris announced. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court." Henry didn't resist. The handcuffs on his wrist felt like the end of his freedom. As he was led to the patrol car, he looked at William with a mix of regret and fear in his eyes. "William, I'm so sorry," Henry said, stumbling over his words. "I thought I was protecting my future, but I ended up ruining yours." William stayed firm, though Henry's apology stirred some sympathy in him. "Henry, your fear doesn't excuse what you did. You ruined our lives. Now, we must see justice." At the police station, Henry was questioned in detail. He admitted to his crime and explained how fear and desperation led him to act so harshly. His confession was recorded, and he was taken to prison to wait for his trial. William returned home feeling a mix of relief and sadness. The betrayal from someone he had trusted deeply left him hurt, but there was also a sense of justice being done. Clara, learning of Henry's arrest, experienced a whirlwind of emotions. The truth was out, but the journey to get there had been painful and revealing. That night, William, Elizabeth, and Clara gathered in the living room. Now they embraced each other, finding comfort in their closeness. The Prescott mansion, once full of secrets and betrayal, was starting to feel like a real home where honesty and love mattered. "Let's move forward," William said, looking at his wife and daughter. "As a family, we'll stay strong and nothing will come between us again." Henry's imprisonment marked the end of a tough time for the Prescott family. With the truth out and justice done, William, Elizabeth, and Clara were ready to move on and make up for lost time. The mood in the mansion began to shift from constant stress to one of hope and renewal. In the days that followed, William decided to spend more time with his family. He cut back on work and gave more tasks to his trusted executives. Now Clara continued working in the family business, but now with a new goal: to strengthen family bonds. Every morning, the family came together for breakfast, something that they rarely did before because of busy schedules. The conversations were light and filled with laughter. William and Elizabeth enjoyed listening to Clara's childhood stories from the orphanage and the dreams for the future. One morning, Clara said, "I want to learn everything about the family business, Dad, but I also want us to spend more time getting to know each other." William smiled, touched by his daughter's honesty. "Of course, dear, we'll find a balance. I want you to be involved in every part of our lives." In the afternoons, the family often spent time in the mansion's garden. Clara and Elizabeth worked together on the flowers and planned new flower beds. The garden, always beautiful, now thrived like never before, reflecting the family's renewed energy. "This place gets more beautiful every day," Elizabeth said while planting new flowers next to Clara. "I think it reflects what we're building together." Clara smiled, feeling truly at home. "I'm so happy to be here with you. I never thought I'd find my family and so much love." At night, the family gathered in the living room to watch movies, play board games, or just talk. William and Elizabeth shared stories from their youth. Clara loved hearing every detail, feeling closer to her parents each day. One evening, William made a suggestion that brought tears to everybody's eyes. "Let's take a family trip, something we've always wanted to do but never had the chance." Elizabeth agreed right away. "That sounds wonderful. We can go somewhere special and make new memories." Now, Clara was excited about the idea. I love that. We can explore new places and enjoy every moment together. With a trip planned, the family started organizing every detail. The excitement for their upcoming adventures brought extra joy to the Prescott mansion. Planning the trip was almost as thrilling as the trip itself, with each family member sharing ideas and wishes. The Prescott mansion, once filled with secrets and tension, now echoed with laughter and love. The halls, which had seen years of loneliness and sadness, now buzzed with life and happiness. The painful past was being replaced by a present full of promise and a future full of hope. "We're creating something special here," William said, holding Elizabeth and Claire's hands as they looked at the garden lit by the moon. A home full of love and joy. Clara looked at her parents with gratitude. "I'm so thankful to be here with you. Let's make the most of every day." With that promise, the Prescott family prepared for a bright future. United by love and determined to enjoy every moment together, the mansion became a true home, symbolizing their strength and ability to turn pain into happiness. Together, they were ready to face any challenge and build a life full of joy and full of hope.